Yes, I am. Well, it's getting cold here in Brussels,
Okay,
Belgium.
right. Good. And otherwise, you're fine?
It's okay,
All
yes.
right.
One is well wrapped up.
Okay, good. Yes. And Brother Rainer, are you there?
Yes, I'm there. I can
Welcome.
hear you. A little faint, but I can hear
Oh,
you.
it's a little faint.
Um,
Okay. Um,
yeah, I'm in France, at the westmost tip of France, sticking out into the Atlantic, and it's a wonderful day here. It was a wonderful day. Blue waves rolling in and sunny,
Sunny.
predominantly, and still quite warm. It's very warm, in fact.
Okay.
So I'm having a wonderful time. I
Thank you.
hope the um, Wi-Fi doesn't let me down. It's very weak and very slow here.
Okay. You're
But
loud and clear at the moment. Everything's looking good. So hopefully it'll carry on that way. So
mhm.
I'm here. Thank you very much, Brother Rainer. It's good to hear from you again and good to hear in a different location. So it's nice to hear that. I'm here in the studio in London. It's been colder than last week, but the sky was clear when I was coming in. Clear skies, so lovely in that way. So thank you, listeners, for joining us. As always, the aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdushin. And every week we have a new topic. The topic for tonight, it's a really long one, but again, as but it's interesting. So we have to put the long words to make it in context. So here we go. So the topic for tonight is: you are free to wander in creation at your desire, without harming others. So that is long, but it has gives a context. It's a sentence. It is a sentence more than a topic. But this is actually a quote I'm giving from the author of the Grail Message, Abdushin. It's a little bit even shortened, believe it or not. It's a longer one than that. So that's what I've reduced to tonight. So first of all, I would like to tell you what is the Grail Message, and then we'll get into our discussion. The Grail Message in the Light of Truth by Abdushin is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Just contain valuable basic elements as a help in life. For through the knowledge mediated, the reader is again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail Message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover, through the intuitive perception, if what is stated is the truth. Combining with the matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I would like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail Message, Abdushin. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail Message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole, without leaving any gaps. Again and again, in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail Message lives, so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with 7 seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote. I wish to fill the gaps, which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace, if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, as I mentioned already, we have a topic tonight. It is "You are free to wander in creation at your desire without harming others." And we'd love you to join us with any questions or comments. The number to contact us here in the studio in UK, it is 079 444 31366. And that's if you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 444 31366. Brother Gregory, I'd like to start with you for my first question, and I would like to basically sort of break down this topic that we have, the long title that we have for this topic. And I'm going to just repeat the topic. You are free to wander in creation at your desire without harming others. I think I would just like to start with the word harm, because some things may be obvious about what is harm, and some things may not be so obvious. So, Brother Gregory, can you tell us more about what is harm? Yeah. What does it mean by harming?
Thanks. It's one has to look at the whole context before one starts discussing what harm is. The initial title, or the title, is "You are free to wander in creation." So first, one has to look at what is referred to as creation and who is wandering in creation. Under what laws can it wander freely? It's when that's personality who is wandering, only when it doesn't follow the laws which swing in that entity called creation, only then does it do harm. So whatever is not in accordance with the laws of creation, which it's wandering through, and through which the personality came into existence, whatever is not in harmony with these laws that keep creation afloat and that furthers creation, such activity, we hold the personality down. It's unable to pursue its desire freely, subsequently. Such will be referred to as harm, because first, it would have harmed others who are in creation, also pursuing their desires, and who personally do not wish to harm it. So the key thing here is the laws which brought creation into existence, and the laws which also subsequently brought the personality or the budding personality into existence. And there are all others who are also pursuing their desires. Therefore, one should not harm the other one. It means one should not carry out activities which will be detrimental to other fellows or to other beings or to all others who, like him or her, is pursuing their desires. For the laws through which they all came into existence will ensure that a knot is tied, and therefore it will cause harm to that personality that has brought that into being.
Thank you for that, Brother Gregory. And perhaps I will put this second question to you as well. I think because it sort of follows from what you've been saying. So, you know, this is not exactly what Jesus said, but it's like a, let's say, a gist of what he said. So I will say, do unto others as you would want them to do to you. So is that a law? Would you say that is that what? Could you say that is one of the laws you're referring to?
No, that is only a semblance. There are people who want to be, who do not love peace. And they spread confusion around. And they also enjoy the company of others who spread confusion. All right, and they do so much harm. So it will not be do unto others as you want them to do unto you. That will be too restricted. The key thing here is that each individual that has come, or each individual human spirit that is striving to come to recognition or striving to experience, should pursue their path in such a way that they do not harm others, or they should pursue their paths in such a way that they won't want others through their activities to harm them. So the distinction one has to understand the distinction. First and foremost are the laws of creation. So the human spirit should strive through its experiences to understand these laws through which it came into being. That is the key.
Thank you for that, Brother Gregory. I'm going to come to you now, Brother Rainer. So let's look into these laws. Are these laws, Brother Rainer, like we just can sense them, or can they be put into words like, let's say, certain rules or something? Can you tell us more about these laws? That's to Brother Rainer.
Of course, every human being, I think it's now which or who, every human who is still alive inwardly can of course sense if he violates the laws. There's a simplicity in the laws, and in the way they are alive, every human being knows when he's doing something wrong. In a creational sense, which is not in line with the laws of creation, that is deeply embedded in our being, and violating those laws is hurtful to yourself. You know you are wrong. And one of the things that we know you're wrong are, for example, when you've done a wrong thing, you regret it, or you want to make it good again, or you are alarmed when you do it. You cannot, and you have to overcome something to be able to do that harmful or disgraceful deed. And if we are open to what is happening inside of us in the terms of mood or emotions, we can avoid it to hurt other people or to hurt creation. In fact, that law which Abdurrahim gives, that does not only refer to other people, but the next sentence shows very clearly that it also refers to anything in creation. So yes, those laws are alive and they are within us, and if we violate them, we feel it. We can often in anger something which opens all the doors to negative influences around us. Anger, we can do things which we then later on bitterly regret. That anger is a very negative emotion, and it's fed by dark forces which are around us, and we must see that right now we are beleaguered by mainly dark forces trying to push us further into deeds which further entangle us and bind us and make us unfree inwardly. I think no one can say nowadays that he really is free inside and feels free, like with a spirit free, soaring up into the skies, into the blue skies, and feeling the infinity above him and the infinity he can soar into too. We are very, very inwardly bound and restricted. So yes, we can feel those laws, and those laws have, of course, when we violate it, Jesus has given us that wonderful thing, love thy neighbor as thyself, which really would stop us from harming another person, or even if we apply it to everything, to harming another thing. We can also love the clearness of the water in a river, or the wonderful waves in an ocean, which I could witness now, from unbelievable beauty, those waves rolling in and thundering in, and the white foam being blown back by the wind, and so to pollute that clarity, or that clarity of the water, that purity of the water, to carry that pollution into it, and a human being which is still alive will feel that. He will feel he cannot do that. I cannot sully or poison that creation, that part of creation. And the wonderful thing is what I could observe recently, it's which brings us to a point which is just after that quote we are having, which is the people were enjoying it. There were surfers in the waves, riding up and down and catching waves, and really great surfers, and which really went hundreds of meters, soaring along the waves, and they were in harmony with nature. Of course, they have the right to enjoy that. We are there to enjoy creation, and they are wandering through creation, and they are enjoying it, and they are not creating harm. They are riding the waves with their surfboards in a way as does not destroy the wave. Let me just quote one more sentence, which is just immediately after that quote, which is today's topic, which is, at your desire, you are allowed to wander through the creations. It's very important. It says creations, which gives it an incredible vastness. I cannot explain why it's there, but it reverberates in me completely different, thereby becoming self-conscious. But in so doing, you must not harm others in order to satisfy your personal desires. And the next sentence is, there's nothing in creation you would not be allowed to enjoy in the sense in which creation gives it to you, i.e., for the same purpose as that for which it is developed. So those waves, and to enjoy them with the surfboard, it definitely does not harm the beauty of that Atlantic Ocean, and the waves are not dirty, and I think they would do it joyfully, like they carry the seabirds, and the water carries the fish, and the fish enjoy the waves, and the surfers enjoy the waves. There is nothing bad in it. But if you're starting something to use it against for what it was developed, against its own nature, then you start oppressing the thing. And that's incredibly important to understand the next sentence of Abdushin. We are allowed to enjoy something in the sense in which creation gives it to us, but which is the same purpose as for that which it is developed. But if we abuse it and use it for some other way, we are being oppressive to nature. And I think I'll stop here, but I think that's a very important thing. We must not work against the nature of things. And often in modern society, we do it all the time. We have been so used to it. Um, I, I don't want to talk, for example, sexual practices, which are very common today, which are against the way those organs have been, for what reason those organs have been made by nature. Or let us say a river which meanders through the landscapes. Well, the river, it's in its nature that it just wants to meander and make those curves. And we have to respect it. We cannot simply say and straighten it with brute force. It's an intellectual force. You make the rulers, you make 2 points, you take the shortest line between that thing. That's good for the ships. It's bad for many, many other things, for all the fish which are in it. We know all the environmental disasters. I could go for a long time into it, which have been created by such things. By, for example, straightening the rivers. We know that nowadays with what unfortunate consequences is. But here we really oppress nature. And if we work against the nature of a woman, let us say, we start oppressing woman. We are starting abusing her. And that's the very important thing. We can enjoy a thing, we can enjoy a woman, but in the same, we must then not violate her nature as a woman, or violate the nature of the river which likes to meander, or violate the nature of the ocean, which is just to have pure waters and wonderful waves. So I'll finish now and hand it back to you, Saad.
Thank you very much. There's another question related to what you have been saying, Brother Rainer. So I, in a way, I want to put it to you. So it's talking about harm, and so I'll just say it. Harm is not always obvious, like a bit like when one man's food is another man's poison. And what I mean by that is, let's say if we make a comment or a point about something about a person, to that person, and they may react different to how we think. So some that might feel insulted or hurt, others might feel indifferent, and others even might appreciate what comment we are making. And so, are we causing harm if someone feels insulted when we make some point? Because it's impossible to satisfy everyone.
Yeah, I think there are many aspects to that thing, and of course, that's many people think about it. In fact, I saw recently a film, a Hollywood film, where this topic was kind of presented, of telling something to someone, and this person was also saying, oh well, it's the truth, you should be glad that someone tells you the truth so you can improve and can fix that, than everybody else just tiptoeing around. Now, of course, one part we have to consider here is that nowadays we human beings are oversensitive to the smallest criticism because of our, we like to think of ourselves as big egos, very important people, and just have a completely overblown image of ourselves. And a person who is more robust and who is more humble can well stand some criticism and is even grateful to that. And people still tell the truth through their actions. They do not like to tell the truth right away because they don't want to avoid a clash or an emotional scene. But people tell just by simply avoiding you, or turning away, or just giving short answers and not prolonging the conversation. or just leaving the table, just saying they have some other appointment to do, that they are not happy with your presence. And you should be very careful as an awake human being if you find such reactions in other people. That's the best mirror you can have, the other people. If some person leaves the table, perhaps you're not eating in a very civilized way and you're off-putting to someone else, and that's surely not right. That's also harming. And you can take that in and use it to improve yourself. So the others, in a way, are very good mirror. But on the other hand, that tendency nowadays to criticize everyone and think one has the right to criticize the other persons all the time, and thinking, especially with that self-righteous manner, oh, I'm telling only the truth. And telling the truth is surely not everyone's. It's a very delicate thing, and it must be done. It must always be done in love. And when is it done in love? Who can say that he's telling the truth to someone because he loves the other person? Often you just like to insult or to hurt the other person. And so it must be done in love. And there's even this big saying in the Bible, which I just want to like to mention in this respect, which is saying, you object to this. I don't get this thing anymore. Okay. But essentially it says, okay, I'll take another saying, because it's in the Bible in many places. It says, if someone hurts you, just offer him the other cheek. And this really means don't try to defend yourself or tell the others he has done you something wrong. All the time people do wrong things to other people, but concern yourself with yourself. Don't waste the time to say, oh, this is what really wrong what you do, then I have to criticize you and just accept this, what happens. If it's an injustice, just accept it. You have no time to be self-righteous and criticize other people and tell them off. Accept it, because you have so many faults yourself, and you're wasting your time if you always are defensive. But care about your own faults and try to improve those and try to get rid of those. And that's the really important thing. Work on yourself. And if you get a criticism, and if it's hurtful, don't mind that much. Just take it. If you can take something good out of it, which helps you to improve yourself. But on the other hand, people should be very careful if they criticize other people. And today we have really a world where criticism is so encouraged, and everyone thinks he has the right to criticize other human beings. And by criticizing all the other human beings, they do forget completely to look at their own self, because that own self, that surely is never without blame. So we should really look at ourselves first and stop criticizing the other people around us. I pass it back to you, Saad.
Thank you for that, Brother Rainer. Dear listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday night spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdrusheen. And the topic for our discussion tonight, it's a long one. You are free to wander in creation at your desire without harming others. I'll say it again. You're free to wander in creation at your desire without harming others. And we'd love you to join us with any questions or comments. The number to contact us here in the studio in UK, it is 079 444 313 66. You can call, text or use WhatsApp. If you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 444 31366. You're listening to us on blessradio.org. That's one a website you can go to. You can also go to tunein.com and search for Bless FM. We're broadcasting there. We're also on YouTube. Go to YouTube and type Bless Radio 1 space live stream, and we are live on YouTube. And then after the 10 minutes after the show finishes at 8 p.m., the recording of this show will be there. And you just search again Bless Radio 1, and then the name of the show there is Bro Saad, B-R-O Saad. And the topic for tonight, I'm not quite sure how. I'm sure it'll be shortened. Probably the word wander will be there. So if you search for that word, you'll find it. So back to you, Brother Gregory. I want to look at another word that is in this title tonight, which is wander in creation. So the word creation I'm looking at now. Of course, we know we are on the earth, which is part of the creation. But the word creation sounds bigger than the earth. So it looks like we are allowed to wander more than the earth. So can you enlighten us more? Where can we wander in this creation? That's to Brother Gregory.
Thanks. The question is, where can we wander in this creation? Before asking the where, we need to know the what creation is. And then one can look at the different aspects or the different strata within creation, and then we find out where we can wander. To be able to wander depends on one's innate abilities, how one has been able to build those innate abilities that enable it to wander through the decisions it's able to make. True, here we have the earth, not only the earth in this world of matter. One can see the physical world with all the instruments, to a very limited extent, with all the instruments that are available to look into the tiny world or to the bigger one. However, that only belongs to the world of matter, through which we have a limitation when one comes to physicality. So the earth belongs to the world of matter. And the world of matter is only a precipitation from another world. Let's say one may refer to as the animistic world. And the animistic world is only a precipitation from the spiritual world. Now, the inner core of man is of spirit. So, the inner core of man is able, through its decision, through its desire, able to wander. That means to move out from its origin in order to experience. To experience not above it, because the pressure which lies above it will make it unconscious. And one shouldn't forget that from the spiritual realm, what is referred to as man on earth only started as a spirit germ. And with the innate desire to experience, its wandering starts. It's able to move to realms which lie below that of the spirit. So from there down to the world of matter, through the world of the animistic, is able to wander through these realms in order to gather experience in the right way and then awaken those innate talents. And when these innate talents have been awakened in accordance with the laws of creation through which it, the human spirit, came into being, it becomes self-conscious. Thereafter, is able to wander back to its origin in completing the cycle. This wandering is not arbitrary. It started off as an unconscious spirit germ. It became conscious of its surrounding, and when the innate talents have been developed in accordance with the will or in accordance with the laws of nature, it becomes self-conscious and it's able to move back and also to assist those who are not as matured as itself. These sort of decisions may be referred to as wandering. For as the human spirit makes a decision, it is propelled along the direction of that particular decision such that it may experience what lies in the path of that particular decision. That is what one may refer to as wandering. For only through experiencing can it mature and subsequently be able to assist others who have not yet gone through such an experience, and in assisting them, those ones will now come to a better realization and come to maturity. So wandering is basic for all those human spirits who have left their homestead, the realm of paradise, and intend to come to maturity or to self-consciousness.
Thank you, Brother Gregory. I want to go to Brother Reiner now. Just want to explore, such a big topic. So, we know that we human beings have this free will. We've mentioned it in the past, in previous shows. And we're saying it here, free to wander. And Brother Gregory has said that it's about, this journey is about becoming conscious or self-conscious. And so I want to discover more about this freedom to choose, basically our direction of travel, you can say, or our journey where we can go. So as Brother Gregory mentioned, we started in the spiritual world and as unconscious, and the aim is of course to become conscious, self-conscious. But then let's say, there's a lot of decisions you can make, like maybe this is, I don't know if we should go so deep right now, but let's say, can we choose whether we are male or female? It might sound very sort of, something like that. Can we do that? Is that a part of our decision making? Because we know that there are laws which we can't really, go around. For example, we know there's a law of gravity. You can jump up, but the gravity will always pull you down. And if you want to fly, you can't really fly by yourself. You need to have something to, like a plane or something you need to do help you to fly. So certain things are not completely, let's say, in your hands to let's say totally, you can't just say I want this and I want this, I just want this and this will happen for me. It has to happen within a mechanism, within a system. So is it possible, for example, a decision to choose our sex, let's say, is that possible? Do we do that? And what, yeah, so let's start with that one.
I think the important thing is to understand the concept of freedom. What is meant by this, we are free to choose our way. Yes, and definitely we are allowed to wander through the creations and wanting to go that way and wanting to go the other way, and desiring to taste this or desiring to taste that. And a very simple example was my coming here to some extent. It was I wanted to see the Atlantic Ocean for once in my life, and and I was free to choose that. Now, the next thing is, of course, freedom can never, we are bound to the consequences of that freedom. We are always every second in creation, and we are subject to those laws holding in creation. If I walk into the water, I cannot avoid getting wet. I can want it as much as I like and wish as I like, water will be wet. And there's nothing I can do against it. And that's what we must understand. We are not free to will what we like or what we like. We can claim many things we want, but they will never happen. And and the human being, unfortunately, is now a being which thinks it has rights to all kinds of things, which it will never be, which it will never have, because they are, what we can have is limited in a way that we can only, that our range of possibilities is limited by the structure of creation. And if we want a creational impossibility, that is an absurdity which we want. We can be absurd, of course, we can choose, we want it, but we simply will not get it. So to be free of the law of gravity, you mentioned that, is of course impossible. We are always bound to gravity. And for a very good reason, if we could influence those things or choose those, have the freedom to do away with the law of gravity, I mean, the universe and the creations won't exist anymore. Galaxies rotate. They make it also possible that we will be able to go back to paradise. That's only through the laws, through applying the laws, that we will come back to our origin, which is there far above us in the luminous heights, which are of a completely different substantiality than the one here, which we of course leave as behind when we die. We leave our gross material cloak behind. So yes, our freedom is very restricted, and our freedom is within the laws of creation, and we can try to work against the laws of creation and decide against them, and but since they are the will of God and are absolute and work all the time, we will have to bear the repercussions. Anyone can decide, can want to jump out from the Empire State Building, but if he does though, he has to bear the consequences. Gravity won't stop for him, and the gravity will just have the effect that he will he will not land on his 2 feet, but that he will be practically, because of the kinetic force he acquires jumping down from the Empire State Building, there will be not much left of him. So that's what we have to know to understand that concept of freedom a little bit better. And the other thing is also what it says here in a new law is that, but I do not want to go about it. We can also lose our capability to decide freely, and because we get too much engrossed in our excesses, or in our desires to taste and to enjoy creation, we might well go over, well, I say simply, over the limit. It might become a propensity that then and this way we become enslaved to some propensity, and this way we lose our freedom very quickly too. And it says here, no, I don't read it, I just pass it back to you though. So there are 2 ways our freedom is restricted. We can act in a way that we will bind ourselves and cannot decide anymore by developing propensities and addictions of all kind. And I just want to mention one: to enjoy food. Of course, we are allowed to enjoy food, wandering through creation, and it's made for there. An apple is to be eaten, but it is there to nourish our bodies to a certain extent, and it's not to build a cult around food eating and enjoying to such an extent that we eat too much and have all the negative health consequences behind it. Then we are not free anymore. Then we are a slave to food, to the enjoyment of food, and the enjoyment is an unnatural one. It's not, we have violated the bounds of nature, and we have to keep that in mind, that healthy nourishment, that's really the purpose of eating. And if we eat too much or are being enslaved by that propensity to eat food and enjoy food, and food becomes almost the reason for our living, then of course we will have negative results to bear, health-wise and in all other, weight-wise, and I don't know, there are thousands of illnesses related to unhealthy food consumption. But also we lose our free will. We are not free anymore. I have just this craving to get that burger, and this craving is really stronger than my free will. So we lose it in 2 ways. First, through those propensities, and then the other way is that we don't have all the options. Creation just limits our options which we have. And I'm completely aware that I didn't answer the question about having the choice to become a woman, because I actually think we should more talk about the normal things than about such deep questions to people who are not acquainted with the Grail Message. So I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you, Brother Rainer. Thank you for sort of responding to that part as well. So, in fact, I think you just answered it in the way it was meant to be answered. So thank you for that. So I'm happy with that. Brother Gregory, again, carrying on from what Brother Ryan has been saying there. So we know about the free will. We know that the freedom can be restricted if we do not follow the laws, or over indulge, and this turns into propensities. Our passions turn into propensities, and so on. So I want to explore another angle on that, which is we are saying that you're free. Again, the topic again, dear listeners, tonight is you are free to wander in creation at your desire without harming others. So I want to go into the word at your desire. Everybody's allowed basically to wander according to your desire, of course, without harming others. So now, this might sound a bit trivial, Brother Gregory, but let's say when you're a child, you want to, people ask you what you'd like to be when you grow up, and somebody will say, I want to fly a plane, I want to be a pilot, another person, a doctor, or something, many, they're all different professions. And when they grow up, in reality, most of, I don't know, there's no statistics, I don't know if there are, that people, what they actually achieve, what they said they were looking to achieve, so they maybe didn't become doctor, they maybe didn't become the pilot, become something else, whatever it was. So, and maybe this is not because they didn't want to become that, it was something, somebody else got there before them, or somehow the opportunity disappeared somewhere. So what I'm asking really from this point now is, can everybody really have what they desire? Because there may be other people having the same desire, and they may not be possible to have both of them, or all these people having that same desire to become. In this case, I gave the example of a job, when you have a childhood dream or something and it doesn't happen. So is it actually possible to fulfill what we say, that you can have what you desire, and without, and I'm not trying to say, as if obviously you don't have to fight somebody to get the job you're looking for, but you still can get what you want. So is it really like that?
The question, if I get it correctly, is that people have desires.
Yes.
And subsequently, how does one go to ensure this desire comes to actuality? Desires without activities doesn't go anywhere. It's like just time wasting. You have something in imagination, and you just, at your desire, it's going to manifest. No farmer who wants to reap good crops will just desire in planting crops without actually first examining the soil. You may not know exactly the nature of the soil, but at least makes an effort. So effort is required, not just a figment of imagination, but continuous effort, vigorous effort. This is part of what the human spirit needs to develop. All right, consistency and going for it. So desire does not suffice, but it must be impelled into motion to make it a reality. So that you desire to become an engineer, and instead of now sitting down and looking at the various challenges and working out how you intend to get there, if you don't do that but sit down somewhere and keep drinking, of course you will not get there. So desires is not sufficient. There must be something to impel, to push forward the human spirit through various channels to ensure that desire becomes actuated. That means it comes to reality. So desiring is only a first step.
Thank you for that, Brother Gregory. Dear listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday night spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdul Sheen. And the topic for discussion tonight is, you are free to wander in creation at your desire without harming others. And you can join us in the discussion by calling or texting or using WhatsApp on this number. For UK, it is 079 444 31366. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 444 31366. Okay, Brother Rainer, I've got a question for you. I'm just picking one from here. Okay, so I know we've mentioned this about insulting before, but I just want to go a little bit more into that because it's becoming very common now. The social media has really grown, and people are sort of voicing their comments. We've said that already, but it seems the level of language is getting vile. That's what it was even said yesterday, for example. Theresa May, she's dealing with Brexit very much at the moment, and she's fighting amongst her own MPs in her own party. They don't like what she's saying or doing or trying to agree, and they're calling him quite terrible things. Basically wishing her dead in some of them, to be honest about, say it directly. And I just want to, Brother Rainer, these are words people speak, and and they do have an effect, but maybe people don't realize how serious is the impact of these words, so perhaps, Brother Rainer, you could tell us more about that, when we use such words, or any word even, what would be the impact, because we know with the physical things, if you hurt somebody, you can see it, the effect of that. But what about such sort of, is there some invisible effect when you speak words like this? So can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very important questions, and we must, once one reads only a little bit in the work In the Light of Truth, one realizes that we influence and we set things into motions all the time, at any moment, through the slightest of our emotional mood changes, or what we through our desires, through the thoughts we speak, through the thoughts we have, we think. We shape the world around us. We create mood worlds, and which exist as actual forms around us, which influence other people. And the same thing is, of course, with words, which everyone hears. We, through any word, we set the tone in a conversation, to not be on the rudest level. We set the tone in a conversation. We shock emotionally, or we can pacify. We can work in all kinds of ways, in beneficial ways and detrimental ways. Ways which promote harmony, ways create strife and war, and those words have influence simply because they exist. They have been spoken and uttered, and so that's really what I want to talk about it. The word, how we express something, it of course has an effect, and the word itself works on an invisible level, and creates forms which you can feel, of course. You can feel the thoughts around you, and you can feel the emotions around you, and everyone has surely had the sensation. For example, you enjoy a film very much, a certain author, and you go with someone else into the cinema, and you realize that person doesn't like that type of film at all and is terribly bored, I think you won't be able to enjoy that film, although that person has said nothing. It has just been thinking. And it's a contagious, his emotions, his internal life is contagious, and the surroundings feel it. Sometimes you have been in a team and there is one member who has a negative attitude. He can poison the whole team atmosphere. And you even can, probably you have experienced it, that there are persons, they open the room and you get depressed. The depression of or just spreads. It's contagious. Emotions spread, and the atmosphere of our thoughts, of course, they spread too and influence other people. And of course, those words have their effect too. And I don't want to talk about those very specific things. We live in a world where where bad things is done. If it would be glad, I mean, everyone is entitled to disagree with something, and one can express it in a noble way, but to use a way which is threatening, even having the thoughts without the words, threatening thoughts, or they will work in the beyond and they will become denser and they will become reality. And that reality would not be very nice. So we should really try to think in a noble way, to have pure emotions. That's the most important thing. Pure emotions, which are emotions, is in the first place the longing for the light, the longing for a better world, for paradise. That should be the foundation of all our thoughts, and should be also the foundation of our words. And once they have this foundation of longing for the light and being helpful and trying to get about to get paradise, to make paradise a reality, then of course you will never wish such a thing to another human being, because you know the other human being is part of humanity. It is part of you in a way, and in the last analysis, it's a brother and a sister in a very deep sense, and you want to help the other person, and the right way to help the other person is love thy neighbor as thyself, care for him, and do those things which further him and help him to come closer to paradise. And so yes, those words which you just mentioned, and death wishes and that kind, this is of course the grossest and terrible things we have to witness nowadays. But you can also believe that those people who say these words, how their inside looks. But if we allow that the half of our thoughts and of our words is like this, that only pure thoughts and pure and good words come about, then the world will change. And that's what we should try, to get an overarching longing for paradise, awaken that in us, and an overpowering longing for purity, which then simply makes it impossible that we think certain thoughts and that we utter certain words.
Thank you.
And
Sorry.
pass it back to you, Brother Saad.
Thank you very much, Brother Rainer, for that. Yes, so really you're making the focus on how we're supposed to be, which is, like you say, keep the half of your thoughts pure, and looking at the good things and bring that out, and and remembering love thy neighbor as thyself. So obviously, before you open your mouth or put these words out, you remember what you.
Yes, it's not looking at the good things. Of course, we have to know the bad things. We live in a world where there are sharks, and we have to know how the sharks operate.
Mm,
And we must see reality, and we must not try to blind us in that way. And we must know those things which you just mentioned. Those words are being spoken, and we must know what the consequences of those things are. But yes, on the other hand, I think we must be in the camp of those people who try to get out of it and to get towards nobility and towards a more understanding way towards other human beings, and trying to wish the other human being should be not there or should be eliminated. That's that's just so awful that we just better should not talk about it.
yes, thank you for that. Brother Gregory, I want to go to you now, sort of following on from this modern technology that we have, which is neutral actually, and people are free to use it as they wish. So, but somehow it appears that the bad news seems to be more popular and it makes the headlines rather than many good things, because the people are doing good things as well. And would you say that the bad news, why it makes the headline, is because that's what is happening? That's because what truly reflects what's happening in the world, or and um, which, so it's like, or and it's crowding out all the good things as well. So is that just the reflection, the of people that because as I said, the medium itself is neutral. Facebook or whatever it is, Twitter, it's just a medium, just like driving a car. You can crash the car or you can drive it on the road properly. So is it something, when we say these bad things, is it, and becomes very popular, is it is that a reflection of the people? That's to Brother Gregory.
Sorry, may I ask you to repeat the question, because
Yeah.
the motive behind it I couldn't really follow.
Okay, so what I'm saying is the headlines which are popular, which come out, which see a lot, or let's say in the news. Let me put it like that. We seem to hear a lot of bad news. So, is that because that is what people are interested in? Is because we want to hear bad things. Somehow, I know it sounds ridiculous, but it seems like the bad things seem to make bigger news than the good things. So, is that a reflection of people? They want the bad news or something, or it's just? It might sound not clear. I must admit what I'm saying, but is that what we hear in the news? Is that a reflection of what the people want to hear? That's basically what I'm saying.
Well, basically, news remain news, whether so-called good or bad. It all depends on the attitudes to which many a person has towards it. But the key thing here is that whatever has taken place, whatever activity has come into being, needs reporting. And very sadly, the activities many a person has engaged in is not in accordance with the laws through which they came into being. And very sadly, these things are reported again and again and again. So many now say it is bad news. If, on the other hand, many of the activities were in accordance with the will of the Almighty, maybe there will be no, the attitude will also change and say, okay, everything is good news. So it is the attitude, and it is a report of the current states of mankind. And so we now have that there is an acceleration of reports. And as it hits, we are able to quickly, make a decision. Oh, this doesn't sound good, or this is bad, so and so. So it's a reflection of the state of affairs in which mankind is at right now. So you have that whatever is not in accordance, and the reactions or the returns are so quick, and we find one catastrophe here and another catastrophe there, and we hear of human decisions. Maybe some are from natural disasters, some are man-made. Through their decisions, they cause so much havoc. What is certain is that because of the media, these things are reported as quickly as possible. And because it's of bad taste, that means it doesn't sound sweet. Many may quickly sense that it's not in accordance with the will of the Almighty, and they call it bad news, that this is not in accordance. On the other hand, if the news were that, oh, things have been planted and 5 million people have been fed, no problem, then such an activity, it will be reported. If it is that, oh, there was famine somewhere and all of a sudden we have, instead of planes going to war, they gather whatever they could to support those people to ensure that things go back to normal, that would be good news. But what do you have nowadays? Many a person remains silent as long as it happened. Nothing wrong has them. They are contented when they see things happening somewhere which they themselves sense are not in accordance with the will of the Almighty. Only when it hits them personally, only then do they wake up and start, complaining. But all these returns, all these reactions, whether it is bad news or good news, only serves to awaken the human spirit, to awaken to activities, to see the returns of its past activity, such that we have, when nature strikes, when activities in nature impact on the human spirit, is able to wake up on time, such that it's able along the line to say, this is not of benefit to me, or this oppresses my neighbor, and I will try to learn from it. But what happens? We have a scenario where we hear all these returns, all the woes around us, and we are contented that we have not yet been hit. So one would not say bad news, one would say returns, which tends to awake the sleeping human spirit, who is contented for now because he's able to eat, he's able to drink, and is not impacted with anything negative.
Thank you for that, Brother Gregory. Perhaps I can get you this next question. I can put it to you as well, although I might get Brother Rhino involved in it after this point. So it's about human rights. As time has gone on, human rights are spreading in many countries, and for example, let me say, mostly human rights is about justice and so on. But let me go on a different point here, actually. So, for example, people think they should have, everybody thinks we should be should be able to eat, be clothed, and have a home, and let's say, and even able to work. So, would you say that this is to Brother Gregory? You know, is that this I know it's not a human right in law, but let's say it is an expectation of the public, let's say, of humanity on earth, that everybody should be able to, you know, eat, as I say, be clothed, and have a home. Something, you know, it's like a general thing that everybody expects. So, would you say that is that like a human right? Should that be a human right, or is it not with the natural laws, the laws of creation that we've been talking about? So, yeah, do we have such a right? Let me say it like that. Do we have this sort of right?
First, it is important to classify what you just mentioned as human expectations. Human rights only exist when tasks which have been assigned to anyone, or when tasks which have been assigned to humanity or to the human, when those tasks has been accomplished rightly, in return, that personality has the right to do many other things. Once you have fulfilled the tasks successfully, then the returns becomes your rights. So the tasks come first before the rights. What we have, or what is being trumpeted, are human expectations that the human being should be able to work. Where does this work come from? Of course, it should be able to work. Let each one search within themselves and see whether they themselves have not contributed to the quagmire in which we all have found ourselves. So the idea of human rights, which is quite natural, must be considered in the right context, that only when some tasks have been fulfilled can rights be demanded.
So can I ask you? Sorry to. Okay, let me just say this, and you can carry on. So, what task are you referring to there?
The task of the human spirit is basically to develop itself such that those innate talents which it has will come to fruition. The process of that development can be carried out in different ways. Take, for instance, the case of a musician, or the case of a piper. Many a person who didn't have to go to school but learned to play the pipe, merely by playing the pipe will attract others who like to listen to good music. And in attracting them, many others, or those who are listening, will not mind to pay a fee. So on the one hand, that person who plays the pipe, let us say the case of the musician, has fulfilled some tasks. And in returns, there are many who either appreciate or find one way or the other, give something in exchange for that task which has been fulfilled. That is only an example. This applies to the stage where the human spirit is matured enough, or say the age of puberty. Prior to that, you then have that the human being is still in the process of developing itself through the parents, sometimes with the help of the state. It is when these things are ignored that we now hear of some, absurd expectations, either from the states or from parents or from all sort of things happening. So there must be clarity in these matters. The tasks, once fulfilled, the returns becomes the rights.
Thank you for that, Brother Gregory. Dear listeners, this is the Tuesday night spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdrusheen. And the topic for discussion tonight is you are free to wander in creation at your desire without harming others. And if you want to join us in the discussion or have any comments, please contact us on this number, which is 079 444 31366. That's in UK. You can call, text or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 444 31366. Again, you can call, text or use WhatsApp. I'm going to Brother Rainer now. Let me see what I can ask you. So, okay. You know, on the earth we have many cultures and, countries and so on. And people think differently, or have different things in different cultures, and so something may be wrong in one culture and not, be okay in another culture, let's say for clothing or something like that, and just attitudes and things like that. So again, with the Rainer, so it's like saying what's wrong in one place may be okay in another place. So how does that work with the spiritual laws, Brother Rainer? Because we've said it before, the spiritual laws, they're just, the natural laws, they don't change. They apply everywhere the same. So how does that work in these different cultures and so on, with people's attitudes and so on? I'm trying to think of an example, where of that.
If I just may ask, what do you mean by what works in one culture might not work in another culture?
Yeah, I'm actually thinking. The obvious one can be I was thinking of clothing. Maybe that's not quite the perfect thing what I would like to say. So I'm just trying to understand that myself. So okay.
But
only thing I can think of. Sorry.
The clothing would be nice because I could answer something. But that, okay, yeah. Go ahead.
Yes, I mean, okay, I will say this one, but I might have to change, follow up with something else later. So, I mean, this is like, you could say a bit crude, I don't know. But let's say in the European culture, women wear bikinis and so on, and, short clothes, let's say like that. And in the Arab or Muslim culture there, they look down on that, especially for religious, you could say for religious reasons maybe, or certain attitudes that they have. And but it could, if you look at that, you can also say even within the same, let's look at that. Let's do that one first, and then maybe I can come up with something else while we are talking.
Well, okay, let me first say one thing. We human races have developed in the course of evolutions, and different cultures have developed or evolved in the course of evolutions. And of course, that is so willed. We should develop into different cultures and different and each culture has its own way, has many own ways. Like the dresses are different, and in some cultures the colors are different, the shapes are different, the poems are different, the paintings are different, even the theater plays are different. Like, I was once intrigued as a student, I know, by Japanese culture and by they had very short theater plays. They just lasted 5 minutes, and they were called the No Plays. Oh, this is absolutely fantastic. We've got in our culture a 90-minute play, and in the European culture, and they had just such short plays, and I looked at them and I loved those plays, and they developed, and it is very in line, as I understand. I don't understand. I'm not a scholar of Japanese culture, but I just read this as a student, and I looked at the little plays they are having, and they are very symbolic. And this, for example, if there is a man, an old man walking up a hill, and he has a big basket on his back and carrying some wood for making fire or something. So he was working. So that's, and on this basket he had a little twig of blossoms, and the Japanese person could look at this in this no play, and in this very short 5-minute play, he just saw the person and could interpret everything. So that big basket told him that person is a hard-working person, and to earn his living he has to work hard, because it was a huge basket on his shoulders, or with the firewood on top. But by having that little twig of cherry blossoms on top, it was saying that in spite of his hard work, he found the time to care about spiritual things, to care about beauty. And the blossoms of spring, they meant something for him. So he was, this longing of paradise, the longing towards something beautiful, was alive with him. And like having a symbolic language like this, they could distill something into 5 minutes. And I found the same thing in Japanese poetry or Japanese paintings. They are very broad, minimalist. They are really minimalist. With the fewest words, it is expressed what we would need whole plays or whole novels to expose now. This shortness of things in this minimalist way is a way of Japanese culture. And we can look at their gardens, and they are in a way they are minimalist. With minimal means, bring it really to the core, to the point. And you just, to express that, you need just one sentence. To write a sentence, you might need 100 years or 10 years, because it's the perfect thing. Everything is like a gem, has been worked on a long time, and I admire that. And now our culture is different, and first of all, the European culture at the moment thinks it is on top of the world. It surely is not. And well, I'm saying that like this, and we have the right. And a lot of Europeans think they have the right to criticize the whole world. And that imagined right, which they deem they have, to be allowed to criticize the whole world and export their world picture. And political correctness is one of those things which at the moment is the European or white man's ideology, which he thinks is the most advanced one, and he tries to export it. Of course, it is not the case. It's in my opinion, it's a very poisonous pill which we try to administer to the world, and it leads to havoc in our own countries, in our own Western countries. And it's a poison pill which, if followed by other people, will definitely be detrimental. To this, of course, other people pick it up. Racial equality and all these things, and equality between the sexes, that all belongs to it. The simple equation a woman is a man, that equal sign, or the racist thing that races do not exist. Every race is the same. Of course they exist, and we have to work with them, and we have to learn to appreciate that a woman is not a man. She has a different nature, and if we treat her like a man and we start oppressing women, and we must learn that different races are different and they cannot be treated all the same way, and and there's not one race above it. It is a God-willed thing. In evolution, those races started to exist, and they have developed different cultures and have developed a beauty everyone can appreciate. We can all appreciate the cultural beauties of different people. We cannot perhaps not make it, but we can surely appreciate it. We all can appreciate a Japanese no play or Japanese painting, and so what I wanted to say is, yes, there are very different things. Now there are in many cultures quite awful things which are going on, and in some cultures more, in some cultures and we must see there's in a culture there is a noble expression of a culture, but there's also a very gross representatives of that culture. I mean, they are then very uncultured people, but they are uncultured in a specific way. And so the real thing would be that we are try in the framework of our own culture, try to develop it and bring out the good in that culture, and be quite aware that we are different from another culture, and be proud on it. Only if I say every culture is the same and every race equals another race, they do not exist, then I wipe out all the races. It's just by making borders between those things and say, oh, this is Japanese and this is German and this is Nigerian, and I can start appreciating the other culture, and I can see just by being German, there's also some Japanese thing possible, which is not German, and that is just the beauty of the whole thing. I see something is different than myself, and I can love it because it is so different of myself. I don't want it to be the same. And today, political correctness says there's an equal sign between everything. And there are no racists, and someone who says there are racists is a racist, and this is just nonsense. Races, they are there and they should be there, and they have their own strong points, and they should develop an own culture, and once they develop that culture to nobility and to beautiful forms and to beautiful expressions, we probably come to in the end to a world where we like to travel to other countries and invite other cultures and see those, and enjoy also the other culture. And if we are then all more or less on a spiritual same level, it will be a very wonderful thing. Now, of course, you mentioned before there's some terrible aberrations in the European culture, but that other person of that other culture, he should not point to those terrible things. He should also be able to see that there are incredibly good things. We have wonderful pieces of literature, which are of course now forgotten and wiped out by political correctness. And but we have developed there are very high values in it, very big philosophical questions being treated in in European and Western literature, and especially for 100 years back or so. And this is also a thing to look at. Perhaps the good thing we should really stop trying to criticize other cultures and look at the bad things only, but also look at the good things and the values they have. And we should try to understand those values, and perhaps we can learn something for that in the framework of our own cultures. But in the end, we must learn that I'm a German, I do things in a way different than a Nigerian, or than or than a Japanese person. And if we all strive towards ennobling our cultures and not trying to imitate the other cultures, there will be lots of different blossoms on this earth, lots of different cultures blooming next to each other in harmony. And so that's the way I think I would like to answer that question.
Thank you so much for that, Brother Rainer. You really broadened it to, something what, let's say, showing the depth of what actually this is about. So thank you for that. Okay, I would like to go to Brother Gregory now. I know we did sort of talk about it earlier on in the show, but I want to explore a bit more on this one, which is about, it's again something in the news about sexual harassment, which is having a very high profile. And, surely we know in history this must have been around a very long time, but somehow is coming to the surface now more. So what I want to say is we are seeing that men in powerful or senior positions, who have women employees or, have been taking advantage of them sexually. We've heard that in the last year or so. But these sort of acts must have been happening before and just kept secret. And only now somebody famous says something, bravely speaks out, and then suddenly, a load of people, women in this case, come out to expose things that have happened in the past like that. So, and it's turning like into an avalanche. So my point really here is a question, sorry, to Brother Gregory, is how come these things are happening now? Sort of, these things have been going on for centuries. When men in power abusing women, in this sexual way, and now it's coming out more. Like it would have been kept quiet and private before, but now it's like coming out. And so let's say it was even a taboo to even talk about it. Women would be scared to even say anything, and now those sort of taboos are being broken. So I want to ask you, why is that happening? That's to Brother Gregory.
Question is why is that we have more cases of being revealed about sexual harassment?
Yes, basically in the world today, which must have been happening always in the past for centuries, and but it didn't come out like it does. Let's say people may have been aware, but it never came out the way it's come out now, like in such a big way.
The times in which we stand speaks for itself. Harassment, whether it being sexual or not, is wrong. It's against the laws through which each one came into existence, because each human spirit has the free will to decide how he or she needs to proceed. And if one person oppresses the other or harasses the other, that is transgression of the highest kind. So it is even good that even now these things are coming out, because it would have been, one would say it's a terrible shame that many a man who is supposed to protect the woman harasses her because of her sex. Such are depraved human spirits who have lost or are losing their bearing. And such don't even have a control over the animal instinct which lies within them. When one is out of control, then problems arise. It is true that these cases are coming up now much more rapidly than we had in the past, because the pressure of the lights, or the pressure of the returns, the times in which we stand, is that whatever has been taking place is revealed very quickly. And it's a shame that is the harassment, albeit the harassment of women, of the women folk, which is coming to the fore. One can imagine how people feel when their mothers have been harassed for so long. No one will feel at home to learn about that. So it is good that these things are coming to the fore, and that because that grants many the opportunity to change, to move away from such base sexual instinct, such that they can have their own self-control rather than, for one reason or the other, harassing others. Whatever culture condones that, such a culture may likely come to a standstill and implode, for there must be balance in all things. It is very wrong to have a woman harassing a man, and also as a man harassing a woman. There must be agreement. There must be harmony. Harmony is the middle path that people need to take. One shouldn't say because he or she has the muscle, that one should be the deciding factor. So it is good that these things are coming to the fore, such that those who are weak can learn from it.
Thank you so much, Brother Gregory. I've got a caller on the line right now, and she has a question for Brother Rainer. I'm going to just put her online. Just hold on a second.
Okay.
Hello, caller. Can you hear me? Hello? Just hold on. I'm just going to plug you into the radio. 1 second, please. Okay, go ahead, please. Go ahead. Okay, 1 second. I'm sorry. Can you start? Hello? Caller? Yes,
Hello?
you're live on the radio now.
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I was listening to Mr. Reiner when he was explaining something about how I think he was trying to explain how the cultures differ and points of views differ, and he says racism, that we need racism. Please, can you explain to me how racism contribute to the benefits of society, please? Thank you.
Yes, I can answer that question. It is not, I didn't mean that we do not need racism. I even do not like the concept of racism. But what we need is races. We need to acknowledge that there are races, and that races are different, that each race is has qualities which another race has not, and we should acknowledge that there are different races. What of course is wrong to say that one race is superior to another, or to say that race has no to exist and try to eliminate that race, as we have seen examples in history. That of course is dreadfully wrong. The races are there, and already for a good reason. One knows that different races are there. The Eskimos are, for example, especially adapted physically to live in very cold climates, and some other races are. We have there's already the different geography and topology of this earth, which brings about different races. And and we must acknowledge that they are there with their strong points, and those races will develop cultures which look different, different shapes. And you can also look almost anywhere. You can see that we've got church bells, and we like to call people to prayer. Some other people do it in different means. But here in Europe, where over the centuries we have developed church bells ring. In Germany, at least, they ring in a certain chord, and that's a way part of the North European culture. It is wrong to say other peoples have to do it the same way. They have their own ways, and they can do it in different ways. And so what I want to say, we need to acknowledge that there are races, and that race is an incredibly important notion. If we do not take race into consideration in our decision making, we will fail, we will create havoc. And if someone says race does not exist, that will create havoc, and he will say, okay, race is just some superficial thing. We can mix them, we cannot mix them. Wherever they have been mixed, often it did not work. I mean, look at the United States. We have racial problems after 250 years, and we cannot see an end of the problems coming about. That has simply be the cause of slave trade, which is in itself very wrong. A wrong attitude towards race, that one looked down on one race and say they might even, I don't want to go into the details of that, but the fact alone of mixing those things has created havoc, and the problems are still not solved. Racism, when it means that one race regards itself as superior, that is of course definitely wrong. We should see ourselves as freestanding nations, freestanding races next to each other, and all on their way to develop a beautiful culture and respect each other. So I can see a world of different nations and different races coexisting in harmony. And I think the way which is proposed now to say race is just an invention or a social construct, that's what I meant. That is definitely wrong. And the same thing would be to say the concept of woman is just a social construct. No, it's a reality. A race is a reality, and a woman is a reality. But to put down a woman and say she's a second-hand human being, that is definitely wrong, because she came into existence for a very specific purpose, an indispensable thing, as important as a human being. And the same is, I would agree with the person who asked that question. Racism, if it is understood, we do not need, that is wrong. That should not exist when one race says, oh, we are superior to another race for whatever reason, and can then do harm to that other race. That is, of course, an abominable thing to do, and it has happened in the past, and the consequences are terrible, and we feel them now. We have not closed those chapters, and but that is also that we must, but we cannot do away with that concept of race altogether. We must know it is a most important thing, and it is a reality. It's not just a concept. I hope I could clarify some of the points, and I can see why that person was perhaps a little afraid of what I said. But I think, yes, race is a very important concept and a important fact which needs to be taken proper consideration of. And we must allow that people develop along their own lines, that not another people foist their own cultural things onto another people. And the different races, they should of course know and reject if something is forced upon them. If, let us say, a Western way of building is forced upon them. No, they should develop their own type of ways of building things. Okay, I hope that answered the question.
Thank you, Brother Reiner, for that. We've come to the end of our show, listeners. I would have asked something more, but thank you for that, Brother Reiner. I just want to ask, I'll start with Brother Gregory. Brother Gregory, anything you'd like to say to the listeners to close the show?
Just wishing them a beautiful week.
Okay, thank you for that. And Brother Reiner, anything you'd like to say to the listeners?
Well, I wish also everybody a beautiful week. And I just reminds me,
yes,
if Brother Zart knows the topic of next week, that would be welcome.
Yes, of course. The topic is, next week is Halloween is coming, but it's really meant for harvest celebration, harvest Thanksgiving. So that's the title for next week, Harvest Thanksgiving. That's the topic for next Tuesday.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, so you can get ready for that one. We did do it last year as well, but for these sort of special events in the year, I like to do it again. It's not like we'll still have some new discussions on that. So dear listeners, thank you for listening to us tonight. Hope you enjoyed the show. And Brother Sayom is in already, ready for his show next. Welcome, Brother Sayom.
Welcome, Brother Sai.
And please do stay on the radio to listen to him. And enjoy your week, everyone, and have a great time. All the best. God bless.